कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद्भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की, श्री श्री राधा माधव को, श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा सुदर्शन की, श्री श्री गौर निताय की, संवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की, संवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की। We'll start with the Mangalachana prayers. We can all recite together. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah kada mahyam dadati svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Syam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindubhya evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, thank you very much Radhakant Prabhu for inviting me here. Radhakant Prabhu and myself, Gopinath Prabhu, Murli Mohan Prabhu and Vasudev Krishna Prabhu, we are all friends for a long time. Today we all met here. Yeah, thank you for inviting. And happy Pongal, happy Sankranti to everyone. Despite being a festival day, many of them are in the temple. Yeah, I didn't expect. We are going to read 2 verses from the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 62 and 63. So I'll tell, you can please repeat. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. One more time. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. Someone want to repeat, please? Recite. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. Anyone else? ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. Mataji, anyone would like to recite? ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. ध्यायतः, while contemplating, vishayan, sense objects, pumsaha, of a person, sangaha, attachment, teshu, in the sense objects, upajayate, develops, sangat, from attachment, sanjayate, develops, kamaha, desire, kamat, from desire, krodaha, anger, abhijayate, becomes manifest. Krodhat, from anger, bhavati, takes place. Sammohaha, perfect illusion. Sammohat, from illusion. Smriti, of memory. Vibramaha, bewilderment. Smriti Bhramshat, after bewilderment of memory. Buddhi Nashaha, loss of intelligence. Buddhi Nashat, and from loss of intelligence. Pranashyati, one falls down. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. From anger complete delusion arises, and from delusion bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Purport. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal. And as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakura was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, he is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses. Hare Krishna. Very happy to be with all of you and taking darshan of this wonderful temple and the amazing deities, Shri Shri Radha Madhav, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra and Sudarshan, and also Shri Shri Gaur Nitai, Srila Prabhupada. We are almost towards the end of the second chapter, not exactly but almost there, another maybe 14-15 verses. Krishna concluded his talk of whatever he had to say for this chapter. He summarized entire Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada called it as contents of the Gita summarized. Why? Because there's Karma Yoga explained, there's Jnana Yoga explained, there's Bhakti Yoga explained, and then there's a question answer session going on. Arjuna asked a question about Sthita Prajna, who is Sthita Prajna, and how he talks, how he walks, how he restrains his senses, and so on. Krishna is answering that question. In that, context, we are discussing about these two verses. So, till the previous verse, it is told, how, if one who controls, who has, who studies his buddhi, how he behaves, and if the buddhi is not steady, what happens to him is now being discussed in two verses. Very simple, very famous verse. These two verses are in Bhagavad Gita are very famous, many times quoted by Srila Prabhupada, many times quoted by previous acharyas, even in their writings, commentaries of Bhagavatam, and also other books that they have written. Many times they take these two pair of verses. Yeah, I have not read the purport of the second verse, the 63rd verse. On a close look today, I figured out that, Prabhupada actually gave purport for both the verses here. And the 63 purport is actually 64 purport, and 64 purport is actually 65th purport. Like, somewhere looks like an editorial mistake. Yeah. So, because Prabhupada is talking here about the process of fall down, who will not fall down. The next verse is talking about, like, not only avoiding raga for the senses, one should avoid, like, dvesha also to sense objects. So in that context, Prabhupada is talking about prapanchatika buddhya and prasadam adhigacchati, everything that is there in the 64th verse. And then the 65th verse purport is there in the 64th, like, So these two verses generally are together, and same purport is written by Srila Prabhupada. So this is a cycle of fall down. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. So when we are contemplating on the sense objects means what? What are sense objects? Anybody? We keep using this term. Yes, Prabhu. Touch. It's starting from sound, touch, form, and taste and smell. The 5 sense objects. When we are contemplating on the sense objects, basically they are tanmatras in Sanskrit we call. So, means we are contemplating on anything and everything, like, then what happens? Anything and everything material, if we are thinking about it. Then, sangaste shupajayate, sangha te upajayate, teshu upajayate, sangaste shupajayate. So, we develop attachment. That means anything material, we keep seeing, or keep talking about it, keep touching it, keep touching it, keep smelling it, or, like, keep, like, contemplating on it. We just want that. We keep on talking about America. We want to go to America. We keep on smelling about the taste of pizza. We want to take a pizza. We, like, want, like, anything we, like, whatever we keep on discussing, like, we want to, like, enjoy that. So we become attached to that gradually. One keeps talking, or contemplating on anything material, one becomes attached. Sometimes it may be a person. Sometimes it may be a thing, like, maybe jewelry. Sometimes it may be a place, like going to America. Sometimes it may be a thought, like, we are imagining something and, like, deriving pleasure out of it. So we become attached to that. What happens to that attachment? Sangat sanjayate kamaha. When there is an attachment, when the attachment becomes deep, then what happens? We will have the intense hankering for that. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Kamaha means, kama is desire, hankering, lust. So when we are contemplating something, we develop attachment. From the attachment, we become, like, we hanker for that. That means when we hanker means, I want this at any cost. I want to do this at any cost. Somehow or other, beg, borrow, steal, cheat. Like, I want this. Then, sometimes we may get what we want. Sometimes we don't get what we want. In either cases, sometimes we want, say that, like, I want to go to America, I want to go. Some people go. And sometimes we don't get. Some people want to marry to one person. Maybe it will not happen. Failure, like, in love or otherwise by providence arrangement, they will not get married to that person. Either way, like, kamat krodho bijayate. That kama becomes krodha. How can you say that? Hyderabad has statistics. 15 years before in Hyderabad, there is only one family court. They call family court. Actually, it is not to unite the family. It is to divide the family. Like, it's a divorce court. The name is given as a family court. In 15 years before, there is only one family court in Hyderabad. Now, you know how many are there? There are more than 15. Like, every year one is adding, and they are still saying that all cases are not being addressed on time. They have put a Tatkal scheme. Just like a tatkal passport, tatkal divorce. Like, there is a family court for that. And in this family court, there is interesting news. 80% of the people who are getting divorced are actually, they were in love some point of time, now they want to get divorced. They don't like each other. Even in the court hall, when they come for there's a one formality round of counseling before signing on the paper, divorce by the judge. There's a formality meeting, the formality this thing. That time also they are so angry and just giving arguments against wife is talking about husband is talking about wife. That's what it is. Kamat krodho bijayate. See, whatever they want, they were contemplating on this person. They got attached to that person. They developed lust. They got married. Now they're angry with each other. They got what they want, but still they are angry with the other person. And we don't get, oh gee, I did not get this thing, I tried so hard. And then people sometimes love with a girl and they don't get the love, they'll take acid and pour on her face. They get into jail, so angry, rest of the life they'll have to spend. Kamat krodho bijayate. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. When one becomes angry, what happens? Sammoha. There is a bewilderment. When there is a bewilderment, sammoha means, moha means what? Normally we say kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Moha means we don't know what to do and what not to do. I love this girl. She said no. Last year she said yes. This year she said no. So let me take a acid and pour on her face. Without thinking what happens after that. Maybe her brother will kill you. He's also like you. Or maybe her father will take you to court. Or rest of the life you may have to be in jail. Your career, your job, your money, your bank balance, your parents, your friends, everything that you have will not help, because if you kill her, you are going to lose pretty much your youth, your everything being in jail. That is moha. Sammoha. Moha is that. Sammoha means deep moha. So when moha is there, what is to be done, what is not to be done, one will not be able to distinguish. Then what happens? Sammoha smriti vibramaha. Sammoha smriti vibramaha. So when there is a moha, next step is you lose the memory also. Physically first you don't know what to do, what not to do, then mentally also happens. You lose your memory. That's it. When memory is lost, smriti bhramshat buddhi nasha. When memory is lost, buddhi is gone. What is this buddhi? Acharya is saying, Acharya Baladeva Vidyabhushana is saying that the human form of life to attain the Supreme Lord, that is lost. That means I am a spirit soul, I am not body, that concept is lost. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. When this buddhi is lost, connection to the Supreme Lord is lost. And then the thought that we are spirit soul, when that is lost, what happens? We will again fall into the material world. See the cycle. Dhyayate vushayan pumsaha. While contemplating on the object of senses, maybe a person, maybe a thing, and maybe a desire, thought, position, fame, name, anything. While contemplating on that, sangat upajayate. Sangha upajayate. So we get desire. Upajayate. Upa is upasarga. Jayate means develops. Upajayate means very well. So we become so attached. From that attachment, sangat sanjayate kamaha. Kama is the intense hankering, lust. From that, kamat krodho bijayate. Whether one gets what they want, whether they don't get what they want. Either case, kamat krodho bijayate. Anger arises. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. From that state, sammoha comes. Then one forgets what is to be done, what is not to be done. Yeah. Then from that, sammoha smriti vibramaha. The bewilderment of memory, that is lost. Smriti bhramshat buddhinasho. Then, atma, anatma, vichakshana. That is lost. Buddhi is lost. Buddhinashat pranashyati. One falls down. This much is only said in the verse. Only one who controlled his buddhi, stitadhi. Dhi means buddhi. Stita prajna also same as stitadhi, both are same. So Arjuna asks, what are the characteristics of one who actually studied his buddhi, who studied his prajna, stita dhi. Krishna, while answering that, is telling the characteristics of one who don't control his buddhi, and the destination of that person is that he falls down into the material existence again as an animal, and again he has to take 8.4 million types of lives to get a human form of life, to get another chance to progress till that many lifetimes. One has to undergo this cycle. So, how one actually, you may think that this happens to only some fools and idiots and ordinary people. No. This is not only happening to fools and idiots and ordinary people. This kind of a enticement of the senses, of the sense objects, it can happen to anybody. And there are so many case studies in Bhagavatam. There are so many case studies in Bhagavatam. Ajamila, a classic case study. Ajamila wanted, Ajamila initially what happened? He was very nice boy, born in a Kanyakubja Brahmin family. Nowadays it's called Kannos. Kanyakubja Brahmin, top class Brahmins in India. The two top class Brahmins generally they say, Kanyakubja Brahmins and Saraswat Brahmins. He is from the Kanyakubja Brahmin family. He studied the Vedas. He is practicing celibacy. He was doing nice, wonderful service at home and also to his guru. One day what happened? This Ajamila happened to go to forest to collect some firewood. Then what happens? He sees, a Shudra and Shudrani, two low class people, mating with each other. He saw. Then his mind got disturbed. He came back. He came back. He had actually married. He had a wife also by then. Then he started thinking only about that prostitute. Then he slowly started ignoring everything he is doing. Then brought that person as a maid servant in his home so that he will more frequently associate and have an illicit affair with her. After some time what happened? First happened, Dhyayate Vishyan Pumsaha, he saw her. Then Sangat, Sangaste Shupajayate, he was attached to her. Then attachment became deep. He could not live without her. Then he did Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha. He brought her to the home and put her as a maid servant. Then what happened? Now he don't want wife. He don't want parents. He made his wife and parents leave home. They left. Because he wanted to be only with her. In the anger, he lost. Because they are trying to counsel him, whatever you are doing is not good. How can you say this to me? Get out. He told his wife, gone. And then from Krodha, we told no. Krodha means losing what is to be done, what is not. He left wife, who is also from a great Brahmin family, and kept this prostitute and started living with her. And he attained the stage of Sammoha Shmuti Vibramaha. Then he lost his memory also. Having children with that prostitute, Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinasho. Then finally, he lost his buddhi also. He forgot that he is actually a spirit soul, is not this body. He is born in a great Brahmin family. He did so much of sadhana and service. Everything he forgot. And then he literally on the deathbed. Of course, he got a second chance by the grace of devotees, Vishnu Dutas, because he happened to have a son of, he has a son by the name Narayana. So, he was attached to that son, and then, he was attached to son Narayana, and then Vishnu Buddhas came unintentionally, unknowingly, being attached to the sun on a material platform. He called the name Narayana. But the Vishnu Dutas and Vishnu are so kind, they took that as call for Vishnu, even though it is not. Because Vishnu's name and Vishnu are non-different. Finally, he was given second chance, and then, they sent him at the age of 120 to the Haridwar, and then there he perfected his life. You may think, I can also do like that. I will be attached to so many things. Unfortunately, Ajamila had to go to forest to see something nasty. We don't have to go anywhere. You sit at home, you have your mobile, you have your TV, you have all the channels, like no, you have everything on the road, even while coming to temple, like no, there are big hoardings, distracting one. So we don't have to go anywhere. You may be thinking, like no, like Ajamila, I'll call out the name of God. Anytime, nowadays I ask my colleagues, what is the name of your daughter? They will say Ricky, Pinky, Tinky, Chunky, something like that. So even though you remember your daughter, you are not going to get the benefit of Ajamila. Ajamila can get, Ajamila got distracted by going somewhere, by being at home, by having, he'll say with your phone, right now, one can get distracted. There is, no break from WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter, and whatever other social media, People have so many contacts, but actually, everybody is an orphan, only contacts in phone are there. Most people have maximum number of contacts in social media, actually they are prone to commit suicide. That's another survey I read recently. Because they have everybody virtual. Nobody is real for them. That's why connect to this person, connect to that person. And you are thinking, this is only can happen to Ajamila, this can happen to each and every person. In fact, I had a friend, in college, I'm from very good college, BITS Pilani. So with lot of difficulty, we study our +1, +2 so nicely. We have to be almost at the state rank or just miss the state rank. Then only we were able to get admission in the college those days. I also got like that. And another person, brilliant person, got like that also. He was my next room, sidey, we used to call, side room, sidey, back room, backy, something like that. Yeah. So this sidey, he had some wonderful name. I don't want to tell his name. But we used to call him Maine Pyar Kiya, because he had seen this movie for 100 times. Those days, remember, you don't have computer, internet. Internet is just new in my college when I was there. We used to get in a lab that weekly 30 minutes of internet. Sabir Bhatia still was not into Hotmail those days. He was our college senior, by the way. So because of that, we got free internet, that too 30 minutes weekly once. So you have to really go to a cinema hall to see the cinema. And we were in Pilani, there is no cinema hall. We had to go to a Junjunu, a nearest town. So, and then, you have to go to so many different. This person from Hyderabad, he was there in Rajasthan. He went to many different places wherever this movie is there, almost every single day for 2-3 months or 4 months, something like that. Some days he sent 2 shows, some days 3 shows, some days he says 4 shows. So his name became Maine Pyar Kiya. In that movie, every single dress he can tell, every single song he will tell, every single dialogue he will tell, what the hero said, what heroine said, he just keep imitating, the heroine. So he was so attached to the heroine. And then, naturally, in his room also, you go, he opens it, posters of her, her name is Divya Bharati. Some of you old-timers may be knowing. One fine day, there is a news in the newspaper that Divya Bharati is sitting in the 6th floor of some apartment in Bombay. Whether somebody threw her from there or she herself accidentally fall down after drinking. So she fell down and she died. That is the news. Somehow or other, this Maine Pyar Kiya, he got the news that Divya Bharati died. That's it. He became so angry. We were all telling, come on. No, she's not your sister, or she's not your wife, or she's not your this thing. How can you say that? He said, more than anything, she's for me. She's more than my sister, mother, father, everybody else to me. How are you saying like this? He said, come on, let's go for lunch. No. Let's go for dinner. No. Hare Baba, whole day he didn't eat anything. Next day came. You please come. Let's go. No. I will not come. I will not take anything. Those days we don't even have a cell phone immediately to call the parents and say your son is not eating. No, I don't know. No, I don't even have the number. We never had a phone. Even that phone is also, again, we used to get access this thing. It happened 1 or 2 days. Everybody is forcing something we were trying to give him, but he was in a state of shock, and then he was this thing and he lost. What is to be done? What is not to be done? And he hanged himself and he died. Such a brilliant boy. Same process, same verses. I didn't understand at the time. Many years later, many months later, I was reading these 2 verses of Bhagavad Gita, I actually recollect this incident step by step. See what happened. He was just attached to this cinema actor, her movie, and then he developed attachment. That attachment became so deep, and then she died. He became so angry. From the anger, he got like no moha, sammoha. Then he don't know what is to be done, what is not to be done. He stopped talking, stopped eating, stopped doing, coming to classes, and then his memory is lost. Finally, committed suicide. He would have become an animal somewhere else, like and we don't know what is his destination. We sincerely pray for him. Yeah, nice boy from in a good family, but he ended his life like that. This can happen to anybody. You may think that, like, no, it may not happen. I'm very intelligent. That person was very intelligent also. Even most intelligent, Jnanavanapi, Bhagavad Gita says, like, no, Vidvams, like, no, even if you are become a Vidwan, even one can be bewildered by some or other attachment. Bharat Maharaj was a great personality, Bhagavatam says. Like, no, Bharat Maharaj, like, no, he ruled his kingdom so nicely. So nicely. Like, no, he ruled his kingdom. And then he trained his children so nicely. He executed his duties so nicely. Done. He is actually done with the Grihastha life. He became a Vanaprastha sadhu sant and he went into the forest. Like, no, see, he was not bewildered. He was not bewildered. He was not attached to anything, even though he had all the money of the. Actually, he was the Adipati. He was the head of entire Bhumandala. Even then, he was not attached to anything. He had so many wives, he was not attached to anyone. He had so many children, he was not attached to anyone. He was able to give up everything. He came into the forest and then he was doing his tapasya alone. He was like doing his Sandhya Vandan, he was doing his all the Vanaprastha duties so nicely, on time, and completely meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a Bharat Maharaj one day happened to see a deer, pregnant deer, crossing a lake near his ashram, Pulastyashram. So then, there he saw that suddenly, a tiger or lion roared, and then this deer is afraid and started running. While running, this deer gave birth to a baby deer and then died. So Bharat Maharaj saw everything. He was compassionate. Immediately brought the small deer. Because Vaishnav is paradukka dukhi. A sadhu is paradukka dukhi. We don't want to see the suffering of other people. If somebody meets accident, immediately we address to that. That's our job. That's our duty, though that person does not belong to our, whatever our state, our community, or our this thing. He is part and parcel of Krishna. He is in difficulty. We have to help. With the same intention, he helped. Everything was so nice. Then he started feeding. Then he started caressing. Then he was attached to that deer. Then attachment became deep. Then he forget his duties. He was all the time thinking about this deer, like that. Oh, how cute she is. One day she is not visible. He started crying. Oh, where this small deer went. She does not know anyone other than me. What happens to this thing? Many times you see so many people are attached to these puppies, keeping the puppy everywhere in home, puppy, this thing. Previously, in my childhood, dogs are outside and cows are inside the compound. We have a compound. Cows are always inside, dogs are always. Dog comes means we used to have stick, not allow the dog. Of course, we don't kill the dog or anything like that, but don't allow, because dog is unclean. Nowadays, it's completely reverse. You have cows outside and dogs inside. And puppies are always on bed and sofa and everything, and people keep kissing and hugging and other things. So Bharat Maharaj also, not like these materialists, but somehow he also developed attachment to this deer, and then he forgot what is to be done, what is not to be done. He was in moha. He neglected his duties, and then he lost his memory. Then he was thinking about this deer. He left his body, and next life he became deer. That great Bharat Maharaj, the emperor of the whole world, the very austere person who did his duties so nicely. If he can fall down, falling down means losing the human form of life. It can happen to any one of us. Prabhupada in the purport is giving example of Vaishnavanam Yadashambhu. The great Lord Shiva was also bewildered. Of course, Prabhupada gave an example of Parvati disturbing Lord Shiva prior to the birth of Kartikeya. Another example also Acharyas say is that Mohini Murti also agitated, distracted Lord Shiva. Of course, when great devotees get distracted like Lord Shiva, it is by the arrangement of the Lord. That's also told by Acharyas. And also it is told that Tejiya Samna Doshaya, the great people will not have faults. But we are not great. We are ordinary souls. We are conditioned souls. We are prone to, fall down at every stage. So it can happen to us, we contemplating on something, this thing. Previously, then when this WhatsApp came, many people said, why, it may not be required. Some people were telling, please join, we'll post you, about our program and all. No, Prabhuji, I don't need all these things. That's what they used to tell. Now, without WhatsApp, nothing happens. People morning and evening and this thing at home, 4 people are sitting together to take prasadam. Everybody has their own phone. Even devotees. All of us, we, this thing. Then what happens if we see something, mostly in WhatsApp, more than the good information, there's a bad information, it is being circulated about something or other. See, if the municipality people, if they don't clean the dust in front of our home, we keep so clean, every morning people get up, even now, in this Kali Yuga, after 5,200 years also, even in the metropolitan city like Hyderabad also, you see majority of the people coming out to the street, cleaning their place in front of their home. If somebody is coming and throwing some garbage at your home, how will you feel? You feel very bad. And if it is put from all the 4 corners, you feel more bad. What is this? I'm cleaning everything, trying to keep this thing. So we say newspaper. What is newspaper? Garbage from north, east, west, south, and every day it is dumped in your home. Actually, if the real garbage is dumped from neighbors, you can clean it very easily. But this is coming, and they're dumping everything on your mind. At least newspaper, it happens only once in a day. But WhatsApp is not like that. Every moment. Sometimes I tell people, kindly, Prabhu, I have one request for you. Please keep your phone in silent mode. Because every moment, there's a message keep coming, another news. Normally I request people, can you please, keep your phone silent? Nowadays you don't see. People don't even keep it. Every moment they'll get some garbage news. Oh, it happened to this thing, it happened to that thing, this one, that one. And instead of Prabhupada said, Nityam Bhagavata Sevya, every day one should read Bhagavatam, that too in the morning. Exactly at the time people open this newspaper. Sit nicely and read newspaper. So all this thing going into the mind. Then what we will remember, we'll contemplate on this only, whatever is going on in the mind. We actually keep remembering that, and same thing can happen to any one of us. So let's be very careful about this. Now, with this discussion, let's see Srila Prabhupada's purport line by line one more time. One who is not Krishna consciousness is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. So, for who is Lord Krishna conscious, very easily. We also discussed about cases who are Krishna conscious. The senses require real engagement. Then what to do? Can I stop thinking about something? Not possible. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says, not even a moment one can not do anything. One has to keep doing something, keep thinking something. Then what should be that something? And what should one remember? Is topics about Krishna, is how to serve Krishna, and how to serve the devotees, if we can keep remembering that. And if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. So if we are not able to seek that, we seek more and more and more and more material things. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. So many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Brihaspati was behind, his brother's wife. Chandra was behind Brihaspati's wife. Brahma ran behind his own daughter, like walk. And Lord Shiva we just discussed. And Indra, no need to explain, like there is a time and again he was attached to something or other. When it could happen to all those great souls, they are great. Why they are great? Because Krishna empowered them and gave a good position. You can say when they are great, the more you are great materially, the more we are prone to, the more we are great materially, the more we are prone to material attraction. How can you say that? There is a story in Ramayana, like one dog came to meet Lord Ram. So servants drove away. This assembly is not for dogs. This assembly is only for men and women, the citizens of Ramarajya, human beings. They can come only meet Ramarajya. Dog is speaking and said, I want to meet Lord Ram. Go. They. Then somebody told this to Lord Ram. He said, bring the dog. So the dog is telling, why, what do you want to say to me? I have a complaint. Why? Is that one priest, he has beaten me unnecessarily without my mistake. I did not go to his home, I did not bark at him, I did not steal anything from him, but still he has beaten me badly. So he said, call the priest. He said, did you do that? He accepted. Yes, I did. He was a Brahmana. He was actually head of the Mata. So what punishment should be given? Lord Rama asked his council of ministers. Everybody said, oh, how can we punish a Brahmana? We cannot. We cannot punish this person. He is not head of the mutt at that time. But finally it is turned to the dog. He punished you, you tell what punishment is. This dog said, we should make him temple president. Head of the Mata. Then why? He said, automatically he will fall down. That is a punishment. This thing. How do you know? I was the temple president. I was the Mata in the previous life, Matadipati. Now it happened to me. This thing. So the more we are good, that's why Prabhupada is taking the example of the Devatas, not anyone else, not XYZ, Tom, Dick and Harry or Maine Pyar Kiya, easily prone to this thing. But here, it can happen to anybody. He is subjected to, even the Devatas are subjected to the influence of sense object, and the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. So the more one Krishna conscious, the less we feel attached to material things. How can we say that? Attachment to Krishna and detachment to matter is one and the same. The more we ideally get detached from matter, we become attached to Krishna. Prabhupada only says in one purport in Bhagavad Gita. There happens very nicely parallelly. Because from bhakti, as a byproduct, vairagya comes. One becomes. There's another verse in Bhagavatam says that a hungry man, when he's taking food, so when he's taking food, three things get reduced. Three things will happen. What happens? First is the relief from hunger, and then he also has nourishment, and also what is the third one? Tushti, Pushti, Kshudapaya. So he becomes happiness, delighted, eating every bite, and also he becomes nourished, strength will come, and his hunger will reduce. Similarly, with bhakti, all these three things happen, and the vairagya, it's hunger goes away, attraction to the material things goes away. It will happen naturally. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. This is Lord Shiva. And there's so many other stories. The great Vishwamitra, he was allured by Menaka once, and then allured by Urvasi another time. There are two stories, in the scriptures. And he actually lost all his tapasya. What was Vishwamitra's aim? He wanted to become Brahmarshi. He wanted a position at least as equal to that of Vasishtha. He did so many austerities. In fact, he created a heavenly planet called Trishanku Swarga. in between, to just 10th Shanku. Such a great Vishwamitra, he also lost, all his result of his austerity because he was behind Menaka. He was eluded by Menaka. But Prabhupada is talking about when Haridas Thakura was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi. But Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to the Lord Krishna. So one who is devotee, of the standard of Haridas Thakur, we are not there, but we have to follow in footsteps. We will not be there, this thing. See, in the beginning we can identify. The discrimination is lost in the beginning. We know, I am attached to this thing. I am getting more attached. At that time only we have to stop. So, anything we are attached, don't look at it, don't touch it, don't smell it, just all these and subjects. We should be stop at that time. If we don't do that, keep doing it more and more, at some point of stage, we will lose control. That is this moha, sammoha stage. After that memory is lost, everything is bewildered, we will not be able to do anything. But Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verses of Sri Yamunacharya. So Yamunacharya says that the thought itself of sense gratification, if it comes, I spit at it. Even the very thought should be rejected. Because what happens if the thoughts are rejected, if the thoughts are not rejected, then we will speak about it. When we speak about it, we actually, get into the deed. We actually want to enjoy it with our, working senses. So first thing is, better stop in the mind. This thing. See, there is a bona fide way of sense enjoyment, authorized way for certain desires which are legal, which are dharmic, which are this thing that is allowed. Bhagavad Gita is not rejecting that. In fact, Krishna is telling, Dharma aviruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. I am that kama which is not contrary to the scripture, which is not contrary to dharma. So one can, get married, one can have many children, that is fine. But having, illicit affair with somebody, that is condemned. So Srila Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord, shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. Then even though we are saying no something, the thought is coming again and again and again and again. Why? Then what should we do? I am saying no, but my mind is again bringing it. Again I am saying no, it again bring that. Some or other, I succumb. Sometimes people say, I will not eat anything other than prasadam. Hey, somebody says from Pizza Hut, I ordered this thing. No, I don't want to take. I am just I am chanting 16 rounds. No, Prabhu, no, this is okay. It does not have onion, garlic. Somebody will say, okay, maybe. Then another person, see that Prabhu is also eating, you can also eat. Then he will say, okay, now I will take it. 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Our capacity is till that time. After that, we give it up. So Arjuna also has same question. Why I don't want to do sinful things, but what impels me and everyone to do sinful things again and again and again and again? Krishna says, Kamayesha kodayesha rajoguna samudbhavaha. This kama, which transforms into wrath, krodha, that is the cause. Why that kama is coming? That is what is explained here. Because we contemplated on something, we became attached to that sangha, and then the kama comes. So if you cut at the stage of sangha, if you cut at the stage of contemplation, this kama will not come. So the first thought, sometimes we have to be strict. I will not eat this. Sometimes people say, it's okay. Now no. The other day we went for yatra. Suddenly one devotee is missing, we went to search for him. He was taking tea. Prabhu, what is this? We are supposed to give this thing. No, Prabhu, I couldn't control myself. That's okay. So these things happen. It could be tea today, it could be liquor tomorrow. So better, instead of giving some concessions on this or that, and I will follow only 50%, or I will follow 80% of the time, or I will follow 90% of the time, or 1 cigarette every hour. Some rules like this. This is and all will not work. Better, everything that is not dharmic, say no. everything that is dharmic, like you can accept provided you are in the right ashram, which is grihastha ashram. I assume most of you are in this thing. So it's not wrong on the platform of dharma, one wanting to have some sense gratification. But how that sense gratification should be there, Srila Prabhupada is telling. Sense gratification should be like salt. Why he said sense gratification should be like salt? Without salt, we cannot eat anything. Nice sabji made, paneer sabji, no salt, can't take. Very good sambar, no. Like no, very nice mango pickle, no, without salt. But too much of salt, Buddhist, like no, we can't enjoy the same things. So too much of sense gratification, there's a problem. And no sense gratification on the platform of dharma, if you are not able to do, take it like the salt. Like which is the legal way, authorized way, dharmic way, let's do that. I think it's time. We'll stop here. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Hare Krishna.